Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me a little bit here today. We're going to make some more progress. I actually made some progress since the last episode. I got a microservice up and running, got it connected to Couchbase correctly. It was, I was just making it too hard on myself. And actually, it's pretty straightforward. So we're going to go over that today. And I'm also going to dip into trying out something. I haven't prepared this yet. Is trying out the idea of using DNS serve to locate a Couchbase cluster instead of actually using the name of the deployment. We're going to use DNS. Just look it up. So no matter what the deployment is named, our application should be able to find it. We'll see how that goes. I'm not 100% convinced this is a better way to do it, but it certainly is an option that's available. So we'll dive into that a little bit. Okay, so this is episode 43, the 43rd episode. My gosh. All right, and as always, the only stupid question is the one you do not ask. So ask away, please. No matter how simple, basic you think your question is, we can all learn from it, myself including. So please ask away. Do not be afraid. This is a safe place to ask questions. I am a member of Team Live Coders. Oh, I closed my browser down. I bring my browser back up here. Show you Twitch/team/Live Coders. We are a team of live coders. And you can see all of us streaming right now. There's a lot of us going on right now. We're going to raid one of these later. I think we raided Honest Dan Games yesterday. He's making cookies. That was pretty cool because we were doing some game stuff. So we'll see who else is online here towards the end of the stream. Actually, that reminds me. Let me open up my... I got some scheduling to do here. We're probably going to close down the stream a little early today. So normally I'd go for 2 hours. But I'm going to probably close down a little early today. We're probably not going to go the full 2 hours. We'll see how it goes. But at the end of that stream, we're going to raid one of my fellow team members, most likely, assuming some of these people are still online or others have joined. So check that out. If you're looking for live coding, live coders, doing all kinds of different topics, different schedules, different time zones, Twitch/team/live coders. And of course, the Awesome Developer streaming list. Just do a quick plug for it this time. We did a search through it last time, but this is a big text file containing lists of streamers, links to them, and the kind of content that they typically stream about. GitHub/BNB/Awesome Developer Streams. Check it out. All right, you can find old episodes of this show. I think I exported episode 42. Should be up there. If not, I'll do that shortly. But, they're on Twitch, available for a while, and I like to export them to YouTube to have them longer than that. So you can find those videos, all the videos that I do, bit.ly/GrovesTube. Check it out. And if you're watching on YouTube, hello, how are you? Leave a little comment there just to say hi if you want to. You can subscribe to get notified of when I export new videos or when I publish new videos, I guess. And leave your questions on there. If you leave a question, chances are I'm going to answer it in the very next episode that I record. So feel free to do that. Appreciate it. YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube because you want to watch on a faster speed or you want to skip ahead, that's totally fine. That is completely acceptable. So just let me know you're over there. Say hi. All right, so we are working on, I got to switch projects here because I was doing a different project last night, not coding related. I'm going to switch over here. Hopefully this doesn't break anything. Yep, okay, good. I'm still running my chatbot locally. I'm working towards not doing that. But right now I have posted the work in progress, very much work in progress of the blog post that I'm working on as a follow-up to my last one on ASP.NET Core Microservices. This will be actually deploying ASP.NET Core Microservice to Kubernetes. So we're going to work on that today. I do want to plug, again, the C# Advent. This is ongoing. And I closed my browser again. Gotta stop doing that. CrossCuttingConcerns.com. You can check it out. Here here's the list of people who've signed up, and we're on December 5th right now. So we've got 10 great blog posts right now. And we're going to add hopefully 2 more every day until December 25th. And you're going to see great C# content all Advent long. So check that out. You can also go to this shortened URL here, courtesy of Calvin. That's csadvent.christmas. Calvin Allen. He'll drop in every once in a while, but this is a link that he created, a URL that he created to redirect to this, and we're talking about, look at some behind the scenes stuff going on. We're talking about making this a little bit more of its own website next year, so we'll see how that goes. But for now, this is the 3rd one, still running out Cross-Cutting Concerns. Go there, check it out, especially if you're interested in C#, .NET content, or you want to learn some more about C#. These aren't all beginners posts. Some of them require you to have some knowledge of C#, but some of them are. So definitely check it out. And if nothing else, you can get to know the people in the C# community, follow them on Twitter, subscribe to their blogs, all that kind of stuff to learn more about C#. Okay, this is my backlog and a bunch of stuff in there, but we're going to work more on Kubernetes today. So what I've got here is I've got Hello Microservice. And I'm doing a couple things differently here. So locally, I haven't actually tried this yet, so this could just completely blow up. But I used to have servers in here. And I'd specify the servers, and the server would just be the Couchbase. What I'm going to do instead, and we're going to try this locally first to make sure it works, but I'm going to give it a connection string. So connecting to Couchbase also supports the idea of connection strings instead of specifying the actual IP address or the URL of your nodes. You can just give it a connection string, which is going to be good for us in both the local development situation and in when we deploy to Kubernetes, because locally we only have the one Couchbase node, and so it's always going to be called Couchbase. We know that because Docker Compose calls it Couchbase right here. We could call it something else, but that's what we call it. So it's always going to just find the one. In Kubernetes, when we deploy it there, what's going to happen is we're going to use something called DNS SRV, which I don't know very much about, to be honest, except I know the idea behind it is to sort of act as a bit of a locator to help you connect to, in this case, Couchbase or other databases or other services out there, without having to know what their IP address is or what their URL is or things like that. You can just use a DNS SRV entry. And so it's my understanding that the Couchbase operator, which we are using to deploy Couchbase to Kubernetes, has created a SRV entry inside that cluster. So this should work there too. So actually, what I probably want to do is change this. Instead of Couchbase _ servers _ 0, we're going to say Couchbase servers, Couchbase _ connection string. And we're going to call that Couchbase. And this is going to go away. And this, now Docker Compose decided it wanted to run. But this is going to be placed. And that's going to be the case both locally and in Kubernetes. So I don't want a situation where we're hard coding that here. It's going to be something we pass into configuration via environment variables. So let's see if this works. This is going to expose 8891. That's fine because I've got, like I said, the chatbot running locally, which is already using port 8091. Not that I really need to expose that port for the chatbot, but that's why I have it different there. Oh, we got ourselves an error. Okay, I think what happened is it's kind of like I sort of did one build inside of another. So let's just do a clean solution here. And we'll start over. Yeah, it looks like I may have done 2 of them. I may have spun up 2 at the same time. Totally fine. We'll run this again. Lighting is working much better today than it was last night. I really need to figure out a better lighting situation. Okay, so I got an error message here. Connection refused, could not bootstrap. Okay, so that's not good. check inner exception for details. So what that's telling me is that it's kind of like this isn't working. Does this need to be a string? That might be a problem there. Okay, this is doing all kinds of stuff here after I save that file. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Let's just do a Control F5 and see what happens. Okay. Okay, so I need to put in a string. Fine, that's good. So it's working. And if I go over here to 8891, just to verify, and that's administrator password. Okay, so you can see I've got 9 items in here. If I refresh this page, we should have the 10th item appear. And there we go. Okay, so good. So it's working locally. That's a good thing. What I've done is I've changed this to use Couchbase __ connection string. So first I'm going to have to go ahead and build this Docker file. Okay, again, I think this is a clean solution situation. These steps should probably be automated in like a CI/CD pipeline kind of situation. That's a little bit more than I want to bite off for this blog post, so we're going to just keep manual for a while. There we go. Unlike last episode, I actually have the AKS cluster creation script. I ran that before I started the broadcast today. So that's already in place. We don't have to wait for that. So that's good. But what I want to do is once this is done building, I want to just say Docker images and see that hello microservice is there. 2 seconds ago, we're going to Docker tag, if I remember how to do this correctly, Docker tag hello microservice with Matt Groves / hello microservice. Okay, and that should tag it, the latest one. Whoops. Yep, 27 seconds ago, that's the latest one. So we're going to Docker push. We'll just do this. I don't want to make a typo here. Pushed on out there to Docker Hub. The old Docker Hub skis. It shouldn't take very long. Okay, there we go. Now, so I've updated my microservice here to use this connection string instead of a list of servers. That has not impacted the local development, but it's going to give us some benefits when it comes to the Kubernetes deployment. So let me bring over here. I'm editing my Kubernetes stuff here in Visual Studio Code, just kind of keeping them separate. We have Couchbase Cluster. Okay. Oh, something else I want to show you as well. But we're going to just stick with just the one server for now. It's very easy to change. And I want to go to Hello Microservice. And what I'm going to do here is that instead of Couchbase servers 0, I'm going to use a connection string. And it's going to use the Hello Microservices SRV. And that is the SRV that's going to be created by the Couchbase operator. So I'm going to show you that here, because this is actually something cool I learned about bringing up a Kubernetes UI. I think I tried that this last episode and it didn't work. With AKS, it's a slightly different command, I guess. I could be wrong, but the different command that I use worked, so we're going to stick with that. All right. So we're just going to follow the steps I laid out my blog, my sort of notes. This is a file that will be a blog post. Right now it's just a mess of links and commands and some ideas for SEO. A work in progress, very much work in progress, very much just rough notes. So these are the steps I want to follow here. I'm just going to be pasting these into Windows Terminal. Unable to connect. Okay, that's because I didn't get credentials yet, so I didn't even do that step. So I created the cluster, but I didn't actually connect to it. Yes, we're going to overwrite because I'm using the same names as before. Totally fine. So I could say cube ctl git nodes, and we should have 3 nodes there, because that's what I created. I created 3 nodes Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so now let's get to entering these commands. Sometime I'm going to probably explore using Helm to do this stuff instead of me having to manually do it. Again, if we're automating, it's not a huge deal one way or the other. I'm not automating it, so it's a little bit annoying. Okay, so that's the operator stuff. Now I'm going to put in the Kubernetes, the secrets file for the Couchbase cluster. So I'm using the word cluster here, 2 different but similar uses of the word cluster. So we have the Kubernetes cluster. Maybe a drawing, like a simple paint drawing, will help display this. This is what's going on in my mind. Okay, so we've got a Kubernetes cluster. Okay, and these are the Kubernetes. Whoa, that text is way too big. So we've got K8S, and this is node 1. This is K8S node 2, and this is K8S node 3. So that is the actual, there's VMs in Azure right now that make up the Kubernetes cluster. So all these machines talk to each other, and they make up the Kubernetes cluster itself. Now within the Kubernetes cluster, we could have a bunch of different pods. So in my case, I've got ASP.NET, and I've got Couchbase. I also want to make the point that, well, that's way too tiny, that I can add more nodes to this cluster. It isn't just 3. I could add additional nodes if I wanted to. So in here, I've got ASP.NET Core. Over here, I've got Couchbase. These are both Couchbase. This is node 1. And this is node 2. And I can add more nodes to Couchbase if I want to. That's what the operator can actually do. I can just change a number. I've got 1 node of ASP.NET, but again, I can just change a number and add more pods there that have ASP.NET. Now, if I do that, I'm probably going to need to add another box here for the load balancer, but we might get to that today. Probably not. Anyway, don't worry about that part. So this is how I picture it in my mind, is that Kubernetes is sort of abstracting the machines behind the scene here, and I'm just loading up these pods. And Kubernetes is going to manage where do these pods actually run. Is it going to run on ASP.NET going to run on node 1? Is Couchbase going to run on node 2? Other Couchbase run on node 3? Or maybe ASP.NET's on node 1 and one of the Couchbases is on node 1. Hopefully that's not the case, because Couchbase is relatively resource hungry. I'm assuming the operator is going to abstract a lot of that away for us. But so what I wanted to make the point is this right here, this is a Kubernetes cluster. Within that Kubernetes cluster, I have a Couchbase cluster. And technically speaking, ASP.NET is not really a cluster. I could have multiple ASP.NET machines acting as kind of a web farm. They'd be behind a load balancer, but they really don't talk to each other. They're just sort of isolated pods. But I guess you might think of it as a cluster. I don't know. So I've got this. So I've kind of got 2 clusters within a Kubernetes cluster. So naming things is hard. So I'm going to try to say Kubernetes cluster or AKS cluster. I'm going to try to say Couchbase cluster, but just know that there's 2 different kinds of clusters here happening. One is sort of the parent cluster, and one is cluster within a cluster. Okay, hopefully that cleared things up. Probably not, but if you have questions, just drop them in there. Or if you have a better way to explain it, if you know Kubernetes, go ahead and drop your comments in there. Okay, so I've got get the Couchbase cluster up and running. That's going to take about 3 minutes or so. Spin up a single node, so we'll go ahead and do that. You know what? I just now noticed that all of my commands are not running because I'm in the wrong folder. Oh gosh. Groves, and it is 127. src, whoop, src, srv is later, Kubernetes, okay, gosh. Okay, so I gotta do this over again because I was just ignoring those error messages. Okay, there we go. That's more like it. So we're gonna do this over again here. And we're gonna get the Couchbase cluster creation kicked off. It takes a few minutes. But while that's getting kicked off, I'm gonna show you something pretty cool that I found. A secret, and we'll kick off the Couchbase cluster. Okay. Great. So what I wanted to show you is a link somewhere. This was in the Microsoft documentation, I believe. Yes, Kubernetes dashboard. And again, I close my browser. Okay. Now, there is some stuff here. This is how you'd start a Kubernetes dashboard. If your AKS cluster uses RBAC, mine is. So, excuse me, so I'm going to have to go ahead and do this first. I'm, again, not 100% sure what this is going on, except that I think it's creating a role that can be used by the dashboard itself. So let me just go ahead. I think I might have... Did I paste that somewhere? I didn't. Okay, so we'll just go ahead back to the cluster here. And I'm going to create that role. Good. Now I'm going to go ahead and do this. This is AKS browse. So AKS browse. And I'm giving a specific resource group and a specific AKS cluster. So the resource group is called Hello. Where is it? Hello Microservice group. And the cluster is called Hello Microservice AKS. So what this is going to do is it's going to spin up and create a little dashboard and URL for me to go to. It's going to open it automatically. And this is a UI into the AKS cluster running in Azure. So this is a nice visual way a little more visual way of seeing what's going on. So you can see if I go to, because it's got pods on the dashboard, but if I go to pods, we can see that my operator and my operator admission are up and running. And we can see that the first node for Couchbase is in process. It is pending because it's not quite up and running yet. So it's going to take a little bit of time for that to happen. But I thought this was pretty cool. Now, one thing you can also see, if we go to services here, you can see these are some services that have been created either by AKS or by the Couchbase operator, because that's all I've done so far is spin up AKS cluster and then install the Couchbase operator. Something here called CB Hello Microservices SRV. And this is, I believe, this is the DNS entry for the Couchbase cluster. And so the idea here is that when I go ahead and deploy the microservice, it's going to pass in this connection string. And this connection string is going to go out to that DNS SRV entry to connect to Couchbase. That's what I hope happens. Not tried it yet, so we'll see how this goes. Yeah. So we got to wait for microservices to come up there. Okay, good. So what I could do, we could just verify this. So I'll leave that tunnel open, but I'm going to open my own tunnel with port forwarding. Just to kind of verify what's going on, I'm going to do this right here, which I did this yesterday. 8891, this is fine. And you can see this is the Couchbase cluster that's running on Azure. I can walk into it here. It's not exposed to the public, so it's just a tunnel to my machine. And I can see that there is, in fact, a Hello Microservice bucket on there, which is what I expected from this service, a Hello Microservice bucket. I'm expecting 3 services, data, index, query. If I go back here to servers, I can see data, index, query. So I'm doing all these things declaratively. Normally this would take some manual steps or some scripting to do when I'm setting up Couchbase myself, which you absolutely could do in an AKS cluster if you wanted to do all that work. Totally fine. But this is I think a better way to approach it. Is a much more declarative. But not only that, it gives it some autonomy. So if a node goes down, this operator is going to recognize that and say, okay, we'll bring that node back up. Okay, so that's good there. Fine. So let's. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to push out the microservice, and we're going to see if that works. And this is new territory for me. That was my wife buzzing me. Okay, so let's go ahead and send this over there. If I go back to my Kubernetes UI, you're going to see that if I refresh pods, there's the hello microservice that's spinning up right now. This is my ASP.NET Core microservice. Now, if we're lucky, this is going to connect, and it's going to be just fine, but it seems to be taking a while. kubectl get pods. No? Okay. There, it's running now. Terrific. So, the next thing I want to do is I want to port forward into that. So I'm going to, let's see, kubectl. Just want to see if this works. I'm going to port forward to this pod, and we're going to go 5,000 to port 80. See if that works. So I go localhost 5,000, and this should, if it works, take us to our hello microservice running in ASP.NET Core. Da-da-da-da! Working! So I can refresh this and create a bunch of documents, and I probably shouldn't have shut this off because I can now go into Couchbase here and see that I've got documents in there. In this case, I've got, wait a second, is that the right one? It shouldn't be 9. Yeah, I've still got my microservices running local here, so we'll close that off. Well, that may be let me see. Okay, yeah, this is AKS. Okay, so I've got 9 documents there. If I refresh this, I should have 10. And hello, there it is, 10. All right. Well, that was super easy to do. Thanks to the Couchbase operator doing all that DNS SRV work for me. All I had to do was change it to a connection string. I want to give a shout out to Brant Burnett at this point because, again, he has been my mentor when it comes to both Kubernetes and Couchbase. And I also want to give a shout out to, let's see, twitter.com. Yeah, let's go to twitter.com. Well, I can't view it there. Anyway, Bhaskar Rao. I can find him just on Twitter. Just do a search, maybe. He pointed me towards, well, something else, actually. Which I might show you now that I have time. But yeah, I can't view tweets and replies. Gosh, so I got to log in to do this. Anyway, shout out to Bhaskar. He gave me something else to do, which I can show here. So like I said, I was doing this port forwarding stuff, which basically exposes these services or the pods in Kubernetes to me on my local machine, but not to anybody else, which is fine for testing it out and that sort of thing, but not great if I want to expose my site to the public. So the way I do that, actually, he gave me a link somewhere. Right here. This is a MSDN link, not docs. It's a blog. But this is using ACS. I think. But the thing that was interesting to me was, where was it? Down here towards the bottom. Yes, it was expose. Expose behind a load balancer. So I mentioned that if you wanted to add multiple pods in your cluster to handle incoming web traffic, you have to put them behind a load balancer, because otherwise, you have to go to them individually. But it appears that with just this one command, kubectl expose deployments, and then the name of your deployment, the port number, and then type equals load balancer, that command by itself will expose the deployment that you specify. In this case, my deployment would be hello microservice app deployment. It will create a load balancer, and it will put it behind the load balancer. So I'll have a public IP address that I could go to. And then I could just add a bunch of replicas here. Let's say I want to take it from 1 ASP.NET to 3. Okay, there we go. But they're all behind a load balancer, so they're all going to be sort of round robin. I think it uses Nginx. I'm not 100% sure on that. Is it like a reverse proxy? Is that the right word? Load balancer? Something along those lines. I'm not much of a networking guy, if you couldn't tell. But then the idea here is that if you get services, you'll see that there's a you see that this external IP, it'll actually create an external IP. So why don't we go ahead and do that, just for funsies. We're going to expose. Did I make a note of it? Yes, I did, right here. So all you got to do, I turned off the port forwarding. I still have port forwarding for the Kubernetes UI. But I'm going to expose that deployment there. And so then you're going to notice we're going to get another service here. Here's the deployment. Hello microservice app deployment. And then to get the IP address, it's going to take a second. We'll say get services. Oh, it didn't take long actually at all. So there it is. That is an external IP to get to this deployment, which right now is one node. But as you're going to see, we can just add additional nodes. So let's see if this works. If I remember, it took a little bit of time for this URL to actually work. It took me a couple of requests, some warm-up time, some spin-up time, whatever. So this might fail the first time, but we'll refresh and it should bring it up again. And we should see, again, the same exact screen. So why don't I close this off here? Yeah, so this is what I saw before, but it just takes a second, and it will start working. What do we see here? Yeah. We can see the IP address in here somewhere. I don't see it. Yeah, but there you go. I'm just kind of curious. Is that anywhere in the UI? There it is. External endpoints. Well, right in front of my face. So if I just click on this link, it would take me to the same place. So pretty darn cool. And then this is actually a public URL. So if you are watching this chat room right now, wanted to, you could hit this address, and that should, you should see this exact same thing in your browser right now. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, sorry, but after this video is over, I deleted everything to save some money, so it's not going to work for you. But if you're watching live right now, it should come up with this page for you. So there we go. So I think we're in good shape. What else did I want to show? We got the expose thing. I think that's it. That's really it. So this actually worked way better than I expected. Super easy. I think I'm ready to start working on an actual blog post now. So that's really it. This went better than I expected. I thought I was going to be noodling with this for a while, but really one of the coolest things I discovered was how to get this dashboard up and running, so I could visually see all the stuff going on in AKS. And if you watched this stream before, you know I'm a little more mouse UI clicky friendly than, and compared to some developers who are very command line centric, because those command line people, they can apparently juggle all this stuff in their mind, like, oh yeah, I've got all these pods out here and all those sorts of things, and it's easier for me, it's faster for me to work in the command line. But for me, I can't keep all this stuff in my head. If you ever heard the concept of a stack before, they say that the humans have a stack as well, but it is a faulty stack. So when I push things into the stack in my mind, stuff falls out of that stack. So I don't know. I'm not really as well equipped as those command line developers. So I do admire them. I do admire that sort of talent, that skill, that ability. But I much prefer visual things. I much prefer this kind of interface as opposed to, I have to remember a bunch of different kubectl and Azure AKS command line things. Okay, so yeah, there's lots of stuff to explore here in Kubernetes. There's a huge amount of things we could look at, but I am pretty satisfied with what this blog post has given me. So what this stream has given me so far, it's going to be a pretty good blog post, I think, to show how to deploy to AKS, deploy Couchbase to AKS, and to use DNS SRV to look up the Couchbase cluster from your ASP.NET Core microservice. Yeah, this is really cool. This is the page that Bhaskar sent me to, and I read through this whole thing, but the main thing I wanted to look at was the expose down here, because I was looking at some of this ingress stuff. This might be a better way to do it. I'm not exactly sure. To create an ingress, something for ingress here. And there's some other options. Right now, this is an IP address. Obviously, if we want to make this a public website, we want to give it a domain name, right? So there's some other things you can do in Azure to set that up, to forward it on to this IP address or something like that. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far, but that's probably going to depend on your cloud provider, right? So with Azure, it's a certain way. With Amazon, it's a different way. I don't think it's something that Kubernetes itself manages, so I could be wrong about that. But that's good enough for a blog post, I think. I'm not trying to boil the ocean here. I mean, we're not covering things like, we're not covering domain name stuff. We're not covering TLS. We're not covering the whole dashboard. We're not covering, I don't have enough information about, enough experience or knowledge of DNS SRV to even cover all the details of that. I'm just sort of cargo culting that kind of stuff, and a kind of a vague understanding of what it's doing. But I think that's good enough for a blog post. And we're not covering Helm either. It's another area which I probably want to explore in the future. So I think at this point, I've got enough to deploy Hello microservice. My next step is going to be, how do I get my Twitch chat out here to Azure, to AKS, so it's always running. I don't have to worry about running it locally anymore. It's a little more complicated because I have to have a whole different set of secrets I want to pass in, like the Twitch API keys and the OAuth codes and all that kind of stuff. That's going to be stored as secrets and passed into the app. But the fact that I've got a very minimal example here tells me that I'm on the right track, and that kind of stuff is just a matter of tinkering around. And now that I have this dashboard here, I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. There was something else I wanted to show. Yeah, that's giving a 500 error for some reason, but there was something that would allow me to. Yeah, here we go. These are the environment variables that are passed in via. If you remember, back here it's secret. I'm passing in these secrets, and I can actually view those secrets here in the dashboard. So I can click this, and those are base 64 encoded, which that's interesting because I didn't. Okay, yeah, that's fine. But I can actually see those values in here. So this helps me to debug a little better than I was yesterday, where I was just sort of looking at, or not yesterday, Tuesday, where I was looking at just raw logs. from ASP.NET trying to figure out what went wrong. And actually, what went wrong, I can actually tell you this, is what I had. If you look here, and I think I actually removed this. What I had here was this, just CB hello microservices. What I should have had is this, the full URL. Now what I have now is better. It's just a Couchbase connection string to an SRV entry. So if I go in here and change this name, we could try it. But I mean, this is kind of where I'm a little bit not exactly sure why this is better. Because it seems like in both cases I'm passing in something that's tied to the name of this cluster. But there was something I'm missing there. But anyway, so this will create an SRV entry. I can go ahead and kind of show you how this works. I can add another node there. And I'll add a replica here. I'll just put 2. Just to kind of show you how kind of easy this is. So I have right now, in my Kubernetes cluster, I have 3 nodes total. Right now I'm running 2 pods. I'm running the ASP.NET Core microservice, and I'm running Couchbase on a single node in this cluster. I want to update that. We're going to update the Couchbase cluster first. So I'm just doing a kubectl replace. Let's switch over here real fast. We're going to refresh this, and we're going to see very shortly another pod being added because I changed this number here to 2. And there it is. So it's in the process of creating a second node right now. Not only creating that node, but then getting it to communicate with this node over here, which again you could do without the operator, but it's going to take some scripts and a lot of extra work on your part, where this is a very declarative way to do this. And let's go ahead and replace the hello microservice as well. And so that's going to also create another pod. You can see hello microservice. Now remember that I have a load balancer running. And I don't really have a way to demonstrate this. Maybe I can work on that. But the load balancer is going to sit in front of these 2 pods and divide the load up between them. So half the requests will go to V8 CPK and half the requests will go to 4VX85. Now, when you're doing this sort of thing, designing your ASP.NET application to run behind a load balancer, you have to be careful about certain things. Like you probably should not use in-process memory because unless you want to turn on sticky sessions, you don't know if your request is going to come back to the exact same process or go to some other process. Fortunately for us, HTTP is stateless. So as long as we keep our app state out of the individual server, it's no problem. And this is where using something like Couchbase to store session variables, for instance, or to cache things, it's going to really help support your multi-server web farm. So there we go. I've got 2 replicas of ASP.NET running right now. If I refresh this page over here, it's going to take a second, I guess. Oh gosh. I wonder what the error was all about. I don't know. I didn't get that last time. Hopefully it's just something that's not going to recur again. But there you go. So now I've got 2 nodes running in ASP.NET in Kubernetes. If I want to drop that back down and save some money or save some computing power or whatever, I just go ahead and change this to a 1. And we'll replace it again. And you'll see that eventually one of these Hello Microservice apps is going to go away. Looks like it already did. It was very fast. So our URL is still working though, because there's still one other ASP.NET machine working back there. So don't worry about this error. This is just sort of, we're in the process of spinning it up. It's not quite ready yet. We're getting there. But it soon will be getting there. In the meantime, notice that this app is not throwing any errors. It's still dealing with Couchbase. Even though it's in the process of adding another node to the cluster, we can still read and write to the existing cluster. We don't have to wait for that second node, which just now came online. We don't have to wait for that. And just to demonstrate again, yep. So you can see, we'll log into our Couchbase cluster. There should be 2 nodes now. 2 servers, and there we go, 2 servers. And I could add more and more. Now, keep in mind my Kubernetes cluster is only 3 VMs, and they're on the cheap side, because I'm a total cheapskate. So, you know, we're kind of pushing the limits right now of our Kubernetes cluster, our AKS cluster. Oh, wrong file here. We're pushing limits right now with 2. Now, fortunately, I only have data index and query running, and so I'm not using all that much memory for data and index. And I'm not actually running any queries or anything right now. So it should be fine. But in reality, I probably would want to use more powerful VMs and probably more of them. But we're in good shape here. We're up and running with a Couchbase cluster that's completely controlled by this YAML file. ASP.NET, core microservices completely controlled by this YAML file, and my kubectl exposed to create the load balancer. And there we go. We're in good shape. Well, this is all I really had planned for today. So this is going quite well. I'm going to start working on a blog post. I also have a webinar next week I need to work on some more, which actually involves Kubernetes, and it also involves microservices. So I don't necessarily know if we have a link for that yet. Let me just throw that up here on the screen, if there's a link. I don't see one on here. Oh, you know what? It's actually through a third party, not through Couchbase. So I don't know where the link is, but I will try to find that. If you are interested in that, and you're watching this sometime before December 11th, hopefully you can go to my Twitter account there, Twitter/mgroves, and I will post a link to that webinar. It should be a free one, open to everybody if you want to. It's going to be a lot higher level than these kind of things. It's going to be some slides, some prepared content. I might, if I have time, might do something like this where I quickly bring up a Couchbase cluster. I'm not going to spin up ASP.NET and that whole thing. Yeah, I don't think so. It's possible. But yeah, check that out if you're interested in that sort of thing. That'll be going on December 11th. So I got some work to do on the slides for that. And I'll have a blog post to go out as well. So anyway, I think I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to call this one Successful Stream. Let's see who we can go raid. If anyone is hanging out with me, anyone's lurking. Let's see. Bald Bearded Builder. At the WWE Record Performance Center. Did Michael Jolly change his name? It looks like Michael Jolly. I don't see Michael Jolly on here, so that must be him. Haven't raided him in a while. Let's just say hello to Bald Bearded. Yep, that's him. Bald Bearded Builder. All right, we'll do a little raid here. If anyone's lurking, we're going over to Bald Bearded Builder. He's doing some Twitch stuff and Socket.io stuff. So go over there. Be nice. And thank you for joining me. I'll be back streaming again Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern U.S. time. All right. That's it for today. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, while that's going on,